Hey Internet, it's Paisley here again, and I just got me a package in the mail, and I want to do a little unboxing and kind of share and review. So to get started, we got the ceremonial box opening knife. Go ahead and crack into this thing. And as you can see, I've ordered this from keepretro.com, and they've packaged it pretty darn well. Nice little box. The actual box itself is pretty slick, just kind of slides right on out. The packaging's pretty sturdy. You can see right off the top we've got our instruction manual, but honestly, for this kind of thing, do you really need it? Just take a quick browse, no big deal. But the rest of the box and the packaging that holds the actual unit's pretty nice and stiff, which is good considering it was shipped internationally, and also has a nice little static bag. But you can see it comes with a USB-A to USB-C charger, and it also comes with the SD card reader, which I thought was really cool. That's SD to USB-A. I really like those instead of having to, mess around with those micro SD card to SD card readers. I always lose those. We also have the screen protector, which is just a, sticky piece of glass basically. Just clean the screen, peel and stick, and then we can take a look at the actual unit itself. Fantastic. It's actually extremely sturdy. I was pretty impressed by that. It just kind of feels like a good dense unit. I don't know how else to describe it. It does not feel cheap at all. The buttons do not rattle. They feel very nice and stiff. So yeah, I'm stoked to have this thing. Super excited to fire it up and see how she plays. So on the top here, you can see we've got our power button, which you kind of got to hold down for a little bit to get the unit to fire up. But right out of the box, we can see that the unit already has a charge. You can see how long it takes to boot into its current operating system. Now I did buy the expanded SD card, so I've got the 128 gig SD card in this thing, which by default comes with a whole bunch of ROMs, which is pretty nice. So you don't have to go to the trouble of getting anything, but you can see all the different systems that are set up here. And to kind of kick things off, I'm just going to go ahead and play a random PlayStation 1 game and see how well that plays. So you can see in real time how long it takes to boot up here. And there you go. So pretty slick. I was kind of surprised how loud the speaker actually is. But yeah, you can just check out the performance of this thing playing a PlayStation 1 game. It's pretty amazing. I must say that the screen on this thing, the colors absolutely leap it out. I was really surprised on the quality of the screen. That's definitely something that I give a 10 out of 10 for, absolutely. I mean, it just looks great for just being a cheap little pocket device. But we're just going to go ahead and fire up a little bit of Crash Bash. Simple little mini games. One of my favorite PlayStation games, actually. After we swim through all the loading screens, we are ready to go. So go easy on my skills. It's probably been like 100 years since I've played this game, and I'm playing it through a camera on a tiny handheld for the first time. But besides all that, the D-pad and buttons feel great. They're nice and snappy. I'm super stoked about that. They do feel really good. As far as charging the unit goes, when you plug it in, I did notice that it does seem to boot to some sort of like hybrid on mode, and it actually displays its charge on the screen, which is pretty slick. It's kind of got this Neon Genesis, Metal Gear type theme on the charging screen for some reason. There are LEDs on the top to indicate how charged the battery is, which is pretty handy, so you can see your charge before you turn the unit on. You can just tap the power button to check that. But I did notice if I remove the SD card and put the unit back on the charge, we do end up with a different charging screen, which tells me we can customize that. So I think when the new Onion releases later this month, I think towards the end of this month or next month, we'll be getting the release for the MiYoo Mini Plus. So hopefully it'll include an option to update that, but you can see the default screen here is just the regular old battery charging screen. So let's go ahead and check the software that came on this thing. So the organization of the file structure is pretty straightforward. Seems to have, your entire ROM collection pretty accessible. Now, all the ROMs that come on this thing, there may not be cores ready to play all these ROMs, so looks like they've kind of stacked me for future releases. Otherwise, you've got a few different applications and things that are on here. Your different emulation cores. There's different image banks. I think you can actually have all the cover art for all your games, which is pretty neat. So there is like some future expansion or expandability, which is going to be pretty fun. And then you've got your RetroArch settings, and then finally your themes, which you can kind of customize those to your heart's content. Seems like there's quite a few designers out there that are making more themes as time goes on. And then there's actually a couple videos on the device too, which is pretty neat. So I guess you can maybe store some movies to go, which would be if you're traveling, camping, and you want to watch a movie on the fly, sure, why not? So as you do when you get a huge collection of ROMs through the mail, you gotta back that NAS up. So we're gonna go ahead and back up all these ROMs because that's a giant collection, and I want to tinker with that. So we're gonna let all almost 90 gigs of ROMs get backed up on my network attached storage. Got a 8 terabyte drive hooked up to the old router and using the magic of Windows, making a backup. So when you add ROMs to this thing, you gotta remember to refresh the list on each core or each emulator. So all you gotta do is select the system, and then you hold the home button and tap refresh. So I've added a couple goodies on here, so I'm refreshing my list since I've updated a few things. I had some files from good old games, and I noticed that there is a Microsoft DOSBox option in the RetroArch. So let's go ahead and check that out. You can see that yes, it in fact does launch DOSBox, which this is just a file structure here of a few DOS files that I threw on there. But when we go to the executable, it is launchable, and you can actually play DOS games on this little handheld right from the get-go. Ooh boy, do those sound effects bring back the memories. So this one here is Raptor. So again, I'm just going to let this intro play because one, it's awesome, and two, you can kind of see how slick the screen looks and hear that little speaker just get absolutely obliterated. So one thing, the only drawback that I can see in this design is the thumb being over the speaker. As you play, and depending on how big your thumb is and how you place it on the MiYoo, you can waver the sound. It kind of gives it that weird like Doppler effect, or like that filter effect. and that kind of was driving me a little bit crazy because you got to hold your thumb in just the right position, because if you move it around too much, it starts kind of giving that weird waver noise. Obviously, I could just wear headphones or just not have sound, but you gotta have sound, man. It's part of the fun. I love hearing all the explosions as I'm going. But yeah, that was just something that kind of one drawback of the design of having the speaker right there under your thumb. So as I crash and burn here, we can enjoy the cinematic on this super sharp screen. But one thing I want to kind of cover is the actual form factor of the MiYoo Mini Plus. It reminded me, and believe it or not, I still have it, of my BlackBerry Bold. That's right, the BlackBerry Bold, the sweetest, most amazing phone that I wish I could go back to. But you can see they're actually pretty similar in size. When I was holding this thing, I just immediately just had flashbacks to playing games on my BlackBerry. Definitely had some pretty rudimentary things on the old BB. But yeah, you can see they're pretty similar in bulk, in weight. So if you're ever a BlackBerry user, yeah, the MiYoo is gonna feel just like home. And now one thing you got to think about too is travel. I mean, I actually got this MiYoo right before I had to fly, so I felt I was pretty lucky getting to test this old MiYoo in the field at the airport. So I had a few hours to kill, and I can attest that this thing rules. The time flew by. You can even see how it compares to the little tray and tiny Coke and cookies on the flight. It's quick to store in the seat basket. So, at the end of the day, what is the overall review? Well, I gotta definitely put a stamp of approval or recommendation on this device. It is awesome, especially after getting to experience it when I was killing some time at the airport and just traveling. And you know, when you have some downtime, this thing rocks, especially for, you know, flights and bus rides and things like that. You know, you're not gonna play this thing for, you know, hours at a time. I was using it for like 45 minutes, you know, max. And then, because I don't know, there's just something about having to look down and hold a tiny device. Overall though, the buttons, they feel great. The face buttons have a good punch to them. The D-pad feels kind of nice and quick and responsive. The 4 triggers on the back kind of feel they click. It's kind of like a heavy mouse click almost. You know, it's like a little, you gotta kind of give it a little squeeze to get the click. And then, you know, you got a nice little rubbery kind of start selecting home. So yeah, those feel great. And when you shake the unit, it doesn't make any sound at all. But the highlight is definitely the screen. The screen is amazing. It just really pops, and all those games just look great on it. So I definitely recommend this device if you can find one. The only drawback is, I think, the speaker being underneath your thumb. So overall, I'm going to give this a 9.5 out of 10 out of the box. So right away, you get a lot of bang for your buck. So definitely recommend it. I found this on keepretro.com. I would say it's definitely worth the wait if you can get on the wait list. And if you made it this far, thank you very much. I appreciate you subscribing, and I will catch you all on the next video.